Next member of Congress to join us this morning, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, Democrat from Virginia, the 7th District of Virginia. Good morning, Congresswoman.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I think you were listening to that last call. I want to get your thoughts on the concern over if we're waging war with Russia, we should be prepared to wage war with China and other countries as well. Is this going to lead to further wars, the amount of support that the U.S. is giving Ukraine in this fight?
Well, I think notably we're not waging war with Russia. We are supporting a free country that has been invaded by Russia in their fight for freedom, in their fight for their democracy. We are ensuring that they have the tools and the means necessary. That's communications aid, humanitarian aid, and yes, that's also weapons and the lethal aid necessary for them to do the fighting, for them to fight for their freedom, and for them to defeat an aggressor nation that has crossed into their borders and has committed countless atrocities across their country.
In terms of the amount of support that we're giving, is 31 M1 Abrams tanks going to make a difference on the battlefield here? What does this mean in the fight that's happening now?
The 31 M1 Abrams is coupled with the Leopard 2 tanks that Germany is sending, that Poland will be sending, that other nations will be sending. So this is part of a coordinated effort for the United States and our partner nations to ensure that the Ukrainians have the tools on the battlefield that they need. Just a month and a half ago, I was speaking with a member of the Ukrainian parliament who was telling me about the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground, as she termed it, is they're a small former Soviet country fighting with old Soviet-style military equipment against a large Soviet country, Soviet-style country, of course, being Russia, with just more of this old equipment. And she was talking about the reality is if they can have more technically advanced weaponry, weapon systems, and tanks on the battlefield, that will be incredibly helpful for their ability to continue their fight and ultimately defeat the Russian invaders. And so, yes, our actions, our provision of tanks, as well as what we see our partner nations doing, is incredibly important. And it's frankly exactly what the Ukrainians are saying they need on the battlefield.
It was your colleague, Thomas Massie, the Republican from Kentucky, who tweeted yesterday, we showed this to our viewers, that's saying that this is 31 fewer tanks to defend the United States. In terms of that sentiment, not just these tanks, but the $50 billion in aid or so that we've given, are you concerned that this is depleting U.S. efforts to defend itself, to prepare for possible future wars?
Well, this is where I agree with disagree with Mr. Massie quite substantially. We are making investments in our own national security. A land war in Russia and an unchecked land war in Europe and an unchecked Russia is a threat to our national security. It's a threat to our own economic security. And if left to permissively go in and invade Ukraine, and ultimately move on to NATO borders, ultimately the result would be U.S. engagement at a level far greater than what we are doing now. What we are doing now is we are supporting a free people who want to remain so, and we're doing it by providing them with the support that they need in order to be able to wage that war. If Russia were allowed to just summarily take over Ukraine, and if we and our partner nations were not joining together to ensure the Ukrainians have what they need, that would send a pretty terrible message to Russia, but also a pretty terrible message to China and to Iran and to other nations who want to see where they can be aggressive, where they can invade other countries, and whether the United States and other free countries will indeed stand by their side in their defense.
In your mind, should there be a financial limit to U.S. aid to Ukraine? Is there a red line in terms of a weapon system or what we would provide that you think we should not cross?
I think it's important to have continued oversight, and we passed that last month, the end of the year, legislation to ensure oversight of the systems that we are sending to Ukraine, of the dollars that we are spending. But importantly, right now, we are providing them with support in terms of material and weapon systems. They are fighting their own war. Their soldiers are dying in the battlefield. They are demonstrating incredible bravery. And And the commitment we have made to them is that we will support them with the material that they need in order to make that happen, and that we will try to make clear to the Russian people and the Russian government through sanctions and through our diplomatic and economic relationships that we absolutely reject and denounce their invasion and their atrocities within the borders of Ukraine. And I think we should continue making clear our denouncement of Russia's war against Ukraine, and I think we should continue the support that we are giving to our Ukrainian partners as they continue to fight for their own freedom.
And then in our final minute or so here, Congresswoman, a viewer brought up the fact that in the most recent omnibus bill, Congress gave the Pentagon $40 billion. It's actually $44.6 billion more than the Pentagon requested from Congress for its budget this year. What was that for, and how should the Pentagon be using that funding going forward?
So that is to continue ensuring the transfer of material, the provision of DoD-related support, be it communications support, be it lethal aid or non-lethal aid, getting those provisions to Ukraine, ensuring our support for our partners. And there is oversight of those dollars as they are spent to ensure that the Department of Defense is indeed fulfilling the mandate of Congress and doing so in kind of a thoughtful, reason and clear way. And that's the job that they are doing. That's what they've been tasked to do, and that's what the funding was to support.
Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, Democrat from Virginia, the 7th District of Virginia. Appreciate you stopping by, chatting with us this morning.
Thank you.